Well, we are live again for another Move the Needle episode. It's another podcast. It's Sea and Smoke in Octillo.
Episode 11.
This is it.
Downtown Octillo, Chandler. Great to be here again.
We're all learning how to say
place.
Octillo and not Octillo because the last time we were in Octillo, Spike Lawrence was the one who told us that we were saying it wrong.
Hey, listen, for the record, I knew people will call me out. I knew what it was.
You did?
I did.
From the start?
Yes.
Yeah, and I will validate you on that. You did know it was Octillo.
Because we do Octillo living. In the beginning, we were Octillo. Nope, Octillo.
Do you want to know what it takes to be on the Darwin Wall team? Let me show you. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Come on, come on. Let's go. Come on. There we go. Hurry, Joe. Let's go. Let's get that alarm off, bud.
Yes!
Okay, guys, trivia time. What type of countertops are these? Chad.
Granite.
Wrong-o. Brooke.
Caesar style.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Well, listen, in the words of Tom Dwiggins, we've got a couple of guests that are going to sit down with us who are shocked can count to the 10 mark.
Yes.
That just happened before we got on the air, and we're going to welcome in our local legends and get right to this episode today because we're going to sit down with Bryan Chapman, who's the chief of police for Chandler, and we're going to sit down with Tom Dwiggins, who is the fire chief for Chandler. We have so much to talk to these guys about.
So excited. First question I want to know, how often do you guys get together like this? How often do you guys get a chance to sit in amongst each other?
Well, I'd say I'd like to do it more often, but Tom's usually sleeping. So those guys get paid to sleep. So if he could get up, we'd be together more.
Okay.
I love the jabs,
Yeah.
because I grew up in a military family, and I grew up around the Air Force and the Navy and the Army and the Marines, and like the way that people jab at each
Camaraderie, I
other
love
is legend. So what are the jabs you take back at cops?
Well, I would just say I would meet with him as well, but I don't like donuts. I don't like Dunkin' Donuts. We try to stay healthy, and so
It's our love language,
Yes.
right?
All right.
Yes. Well,
and here we go.
It's going to be a great episode today. We're also going to be spending some time with Angela from the 100 Club of Arizona. She's going to be our Move the Needle guest today. So lots of cool stuff to get into. And I like the way that you booked this episode up, Steve. This is going to be fun to sit down with a couple of chiefs who are in the big seat for their city, find out what they're doing, what they're up to.
And I think our audience in the Chandler community loves to see it too. I mean, they love to see this interaction between everybody and the camaraderie, and we're going to talk about that.
How long ago was the nomination to the chief?
6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did this morning is I went online and I Googled Bryan Chapman. And I found the YouTube of you being sworn in. And I was so touched by the fact that not only Tom was in the crowd, you got a little shout out from him, but you had your wife Dawn there,
Yeah.
you've been married to for 34 years.
Yeah.
You had your kids who both go to Desert Vista like my boys do.
Yeah.
Exact same scenario, seniors and a sophomore, I'm guessing. And I wanted to know, first and foremost, before we talk about all this police and fire business, what did it mean to you to have your wife put the badge on your chest?
Well, family's foundational to everything that we do. And we know that in this career, you don't get through it by yourself. It really, family sacrifice as much as we do in this profession. So you have to be there to celebrate the wins because there's a whole lot of downtimes too that they're with you. So, to be able to be together in those times is a good benchmark for us. And that's how we're always going to roll.
That's cool. And Steve, we found out in that video that his son may follow a little bit in the footsteps too.
Wow.
Which is, must be pretty cool.
Yeah, he's currently a police assistant with Phoenix PD.
Really?
Yeah, he graduated high school this last year, and he's been with them for 2 months. So
Because you spent 25 years with Phoenix.
I did, yeah.
Okay. All right. So now you, Tom. Let's talk a little bit about, what makes you tick and why you do this gig. When you hear him talk about family, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And I have an amazing wife. I've been married for 33 years. I have 3 kids. And really, our families is what grounds us. This profession, whether you're the chief or whether you're a new police officer or firefighter, it's a difficult profession, and you see a lot of things, you hear a lot of things that it's very hard to really make sense of. And to have that support structure at home is so important to us. And I think it's outstanding, because I was at his badge pinning. But when you see that the family is important, the message he gave his new officers was family first, right? On the most important day, or one of the most important days of your life, your family's there, your kids, your wife. And the hope is that they're for you in the good days and the bad days. And I'd like to think, Chief, there's probably more good days, but the bad days are bad. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to bring all of that stuff home, the things that you've experienced. But when you have a good support structure at home, it makes all the difference. And so it's really cool to see chiefs in leadership and public safety that lead what family values should be, and it really means a lot to our staff.
I always like to tell the men and women that they have a very important job, but there's no more important job than who they go home to at night. And this career is a front row seat to the greatest show on earth, but it has a defined beginning and a defined end. And the whole goal of this is to get to that end and enjoy the next stage of life with those who help get you through this stage.
What a nice way to look at it. What a nice way to look at it.
Yeah, when you speak about relationships and family, a lot of my questioning and I want to go into is the community and the involvement, and how you guys envision, new to the community, envision how this landscape's going to change, how some new initiatives. We want to talk about some new projects coming up. I kind of want to go into that right away.
Go for it, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Maybe we'll go with Chief Tom over here. Talk about some projects coming up that's important to the city, and how the police are also involved, and how everybody in the community collaborating together.
Okay, so I know Chief Chapman and myself right now we're working with a group of individuals, a group of residents for a bond election that's coming up. But specifically, the projects that we're looking at, and this would actually affect this area in Octillo, is that correct?
You got it.
Octillo, right?
You can say Octillo, because I'm going to say it as soon as we
Yes. So we're looking at building our 12th fire station, and it's about 2.5 miles just east of here. But a fire station is very important. It's important to the community. It's about response, but it's a safe place. It's an opportunity for kids to come by the fire station, families, and it's really a commitment from our city to the community that we believe that public safety is important. We believe that response times, which is why we have fire stations all over the valley, are important. And a fire station for me is a special place, not because of the structure itself, although we have beautiful fire stations, not because of the trucks, which are absolutely amazing, but it's the people that work there. And they live there. They live there. For our firefighters, work 48-hour shifts. And so 24/7, the moment a fire station is built, there will be someone in that fire station living. And they're committed. Like I said, they're committed to service delivery, to taking care of our community. And so Fire Station 12, it's a big deal to us.
So you're hoping people can, your guys can move into Fire Station 12 when? When do you want them to move in?
So right now we are looking within the next 3 to 4 years is when we'd like to see it built. We get out in front of these things. You don't ever want to wait until you have a response time problem to start planning fire stations. And so we have really good data sets now, and we're constantly looking at analytics to decide where's our call volume at, where's growth in the city at, and you want to get in front of that. And so we feel like we're in the right spot right now to start putting these plans forward. We've been working with our city, but yeah, it's a great project. As I said, it's going to be our 12th station. We thought we were going to be done at 11 stations, but if you live in Chandler,
oh my God, you're growing so much.
We're growing up right now, and so we're seeing the population increase, but we're also seeing call volume increase. And so this station out here would certainly help our response overall.
I looked this up, Steve. 590 109 fire-related calls in 2023 for the Chandler Fire Department. There's no busier station than 282. They handled most of them. Where is Fire Station 282?
So Fire Station 282 is Alma School in Warner, and that is the newest station. It was a station that was originally built in the 80s, and then we just rebuilt it because it was, at the time in the 80s, it wasn't that busy because it was Chandler. In the 90s, Chandler exploded, and then Fire Station 2 became the busiest truck, or the busiest station. So they were running almost 4,800 calls a year out of there. Woo! Now, we say 500 may be associated with fires, but the majority of those calls are medical, but we also have hazmat, technical rescue. There's a lot of different things. But yeah, that was an extremely busy station that we need to expand it so we could add units, which is what we've done. We opened that station in January of this year. We've already looked at our data, and we can tell that we are seeing almost a minute decline in response times for some of the calls because we were able to build that station. Same thing we want to do with Station 12, is we want to make sure that our response times are low.
6 minutes, I read, according to the report, was the average response time, which feels fast to me. I mean, from you think about, like, you guys are sitting down on a couch, the buzzer hits, and you got to get dressed, and you got to slide down the pole, just like we see in the movies, and you got to hop in the truck, and you got to grab the Dalmatian. Like, there's things you have to do in order for you to get in this fire truck and get to where you got to go, right? Do you find, Brian, the same thing? Is that area that he talked about where 282 is that also kind of a hot spot for you guys?
It is. You know, we have 3 precincts in Chandler. Downtown precinct, which is in the downtown, and then west, our Desert Breeze substation is over by the mall area, and then we have Chandler Heights, which is in the southeast part of the city. You know, the downtown and the west sides are definitely the busiest sides. There's just call density there. The freeways collide there. There's just a lot that goes on. So, I mean, our maps kind of overlay with runs in those congested areas.
I wanted to ask you both, if you don't mind, to go back. Like, you're chiefs now, right? So now you're at a little higher up on the food chain. And what do you miss about being lower on the food chain?
Love that question.
So I'll go first, Brian. Obviously, it's being on the truck.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm as a kid, I dreamed. I grew up in Glendale, so I dreamed of yellow fire trucks because they have yellow fire trucks.
Okay.
But being a firefighter, and then when Desert Storm happened my senior year in high school, and so I went right into the military because
Navy,
I wanted
right?
Air Force.
Air Force, sorry.
Yep. I wanted to serve, but I went in as a firefighter. But it's the best job in the world, even better than a police officer. Sorry, it's the best job in the world.
Let's see.
How about they're both
Let's
good?
see. Yeah,
How about
well,
they're both
I
good?
agree with that. He has the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
I have the best job in the world. But just being on the fire truck, being able to serve your community. I mean, we like to say we work in the worst day of your life business.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody calls police or fire because they wanted to just tell you what a great job you're doing or see how your day's going, right? There's something going on, and it's getting more diverse as time has gone on. But to work, and especially in that team environment on a fire truck, to put all of our brains together, all of our experiences together to find a solution to whatever is going on. It could be simple or it could be complex. There's nothing more rewarding. And then to drive back to the station, to talk about it, to laugh about it. I mean, at every point in my life, good and bad, there were firefighters in the room. Whether it was after my kids were born, whether it was the death of a family member, it was firefighters there supporting me the whole time. And I'd like to say I've done the same thing. And so it really is, and I think Brian will agree with PD, it's an extended family. I have firefighters that I consider my brothers and sisters, and I don't mean that like just tongue in cheek.
Casually,
they are my
right.
brother. They know
Yeah.
everything about me, and so it's nice. And as you become a chief officer, you still have those relationships, but you're not at the station, right? You're not responding. You're much more of an administrative employee. Now, your sole mission is to support your police department or your fire department. But you lose those connections, and you could try to get out to the stations or whatever
Just
beat
not
you're
the
on.
same.
It's not the same as the locker room.
not
It's
the
the
same.
locker room.
It really,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know?
that's so true. That's how we look.
Is that
at
what
it.
it is for you too, Brian? Do you just miss being on the streets, or what is it for you that you miss?
Definitely, having the anonymity of being on the streets too is kind of nice when you're just out there shagging calls and part of a squad or a team. But if I reflect back on it, it's one of the few positions where you actually felt you were making a difference. We make a difference in budgets and spreadsheets right now, and it's just not the same as it was when you're the one answering that call on someone's bad day, or you're first on scene of something very chaotic. That's what drives you to this profession. That's when your mettle gets tested, and that's where your teamwork comes into play. And you just can't replicate that no matter how upwardly mobile you go through an organization.
Can I ask you, Brian, really quick? I was looking at the statistics, the year, kind of year 23 to 24. There was this graph that was on the Chandler website or something like that. And there's a lot of areas where you guys are down, both in violent crimes and property crimes. Is there a statistic that you're particularly proud of?
Well, Chandler enjoys 40-year historic lows in crime right now. That's attributed to two main factors. One, the men and women who are out there doing the work every single day. And two, it's the community, because these don't happen in silos. Partnerships are the key to success. And if we didn't have those kind of opportunities to engage with the community, in terms of here's what we should be looking out for, here's how you can help, we would not be successful. So this is a result of some great partnerships that have worked throughout the years, and we're enjoying the fruits of it right now, and we just hope it continues to trend down.
I'll knock with you, man.
That's what I wanted to go there with the chief about talking about some collaborative efforts. You started to touch on that between the police department and local organizations, schools, health services, community groups. Talk about addressing the root crime with all those groups. I mean, what's the plan to work together with those groups?
Well, step one of the plan is meeting people where they are. We have a lot of outward-facing opportunities to meet and connect with people, but, if I'm honest, not everybody from your community is going to go to coffee with a cop. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to go to pizza with a cop, and some of them don't feel comfortable there. So we really have to connect with faith-based organizations, nonprofits, and we have to engage them in the dialogue and the atmosphere that they're comfortable in. Because without that kind of real talk, you're not going to get to the root causes of a lot of issues. So having that opportunity is paramount to success.
And you've got some of that stuff going on right now?
We do. We do right now. One thing that we're working on in December, we all know about the events that transpired as a result of Preston Lord's murder in Queen Creek. They're Chandler residents. And we have been working with his dad and stepmom. And in early December, we're working in coordination with the City of Chandler, Chandler Fire Unit School District, and the YMCA to put on a CPR event aimed at high school kids, because CPR extended his life for a few minutes and allowed his parents to get there to say their final goodbyes. So we're going to try and bring in just hordes of high school students and give them the very basics on how to save and extend life. And so, when you touch and feel points like that in the community, that's what matters.
Okay.
And that's what we're looking forward to doing more of.
Sounds great.
I want to ask you about 911. I thought we should get to some interesting questions like that. Like, people abuse 911 every day, I'm sure, and they call for reasons that they don't need to. So would you give us your take on 911 and what it's for and who should be calling it? Because I'm sure you run into this, right?
Yeah, so 911 should be reserved for incidents in progress.
Okay, in progress.
In progress. Like,
Okay.
I just witnessed an accident. We need medical resources here. Or, I'm witnessing someone break into a car.
Not my dog won't come in the house.
We get the Uber drivers late, so they call 911 because they don't know who else to call. We screen through
I'm sure.
so many unnecessary calls. And this is a headache, quite frankly, Tom doesn't have to live, because they have a very
No, sorry.
911 just dumps in to us, and then we transfer it over to the fire. So we are the first kind of sift with
Yeah.
any of the not so emergent
And
natures.
it's tough, right? Because you don't want people not to call.
Exactly.
Like, you want to err on the side of caution in every single case with these things. But yeah, my Uber driver's late. Can you help me? I mean, what do they expect? For
Well,
you
that's what
arrest
we
the
ask.
There's got to be a laundry list of stories like that. I mean, I'm sure we could probably talk
Okay,
for a
what
half
else?
hour.
Give me another 911 call. And
There's
you're like,
gotta be.
why?
Oh, I don't know if I could go through the entire list, but it's everything from my kids won't go to school, right? They won't clean their room. I need you to come over here and tell them to listen to us. To everything related to food delivery, it's just amazing. So we're trying.
The pizza didn't get here. Call 911.
Yeah.
we
let's
have
not do
we
that,
have
friends.
a AI right now, which is trying to help sift
that's a
through
good
some
idea.
of that and direct people appropriately. But I would say for the most part, we value those 911 calls because that's the kind of cooperation we need. So certainly don't want to send the message not to call it. We just want people to be appropriate.
Speaking
with it.
about community partners, I just wanted to mention too, Brian. I did through my research. So I'm also on the board of the YMCA over at the Desert Foothills, and I saw you're associated with the YMCA as well. Another great community organization.
What do you do with them?
Yeah, I sit on the Valley of the Sun
Oh, you
board.
do?
Yeah, the Metro board. So I think one of the
With Carla?
Yep.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
yeah. The whole group. I mean,
group.
I was just at the retreat with all of them. They take us the board members on the facilities for a retreat every summer, kind of just to connect, to everybody get together. And
What do you guys
and
do,
talk.
like the firefighter challenge?
No,
Huddle up,
nothing like that.
CZJ?
We're gonna hear about that, but no, nothing like
They
that.
do that from 10 at night to 6 in the morning.
That's right. This is a nice little lunch, nice little luncheon. But yeah, the Y. I've been part of the Y as well for 20 years, coaching and on the board. And you talk about organizations that both can do outreach in tremendously and have access to. That's a great organization.
It's wonderful.
Let me ask you, let's go back to the fire for just a couple of moments, and kind of on that same tongue of 911, but what are those things from a fire perspective that families get right, and what are things that, like, man, it's such a low-hanging piece of fruit, dude, why don't you have this in your house? Are there things like that you see all the time?
Sure, and I'm going to do a PSA really quick because
Please.
I will say we always talk about the pendulum of people call 911 for reasons they shouldn't. But what we also see is people should call 911 and they don't. Mm-hmm. And I've heard it. I can't tell you how many times in my career. Like, we didn't want to bother you. We didn't want to overwhelm you. And what I always try to tell people is this is why we exist.
Right.
The entire reason of our existence is to respond to whatever you need. And so I would always say, like, yeah, there are certain things, and the dispatch centers will triage that. But if you're ever in doubt, call 911. We can turn around. We can get on scene. We can say, you know what, this is an emergency. We're going to go back, which I would rather do than have an emergency and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, and then we're so far behind the ball that we can't really mitigate whatever's going on.
I actually had one of those situations. I was visiting my son in Tucson at U of A, and out of nowhere he was eating at something lodged in his throat, and I've never had that situation. I tried to Heimlich, but I did call.
Perfect.
I did call, and the fire were there. I will say very quick, super quick, and luckily it went down. But again,
He
like
put a hose in his mouth. Of course, he's just kidding. Man.
no, you'll drown if you do that. Talk to the fire people. You got something lodged. The last thing you want to do is throwing water down
Terrible
there.
joke, everybody.
Yeah,
Just so you know,
do not,
right? Matthew's joking.
do not throw water down a choking person. Do not do that. But anyway, so hey, I got a fun question for the
let's
fire
go.
guy. I want to know because we're probably you're a little younger than me, maybe a lot younger. Talk about your favorite fire movie because I know they let's have a little fun with
Fun
this.
way to wrap up.
Yeah,
I like this.
yeah, because
All right, and your favorite cop movies coming.
I've got mine in my generation. What about you've got to have yours?
Yeah, I don't
Are
know.
there a lot of fire movies?
Yes.
Yeah, there are definitely fire movies, and they are all like the TV show Chicago Fire. They're 100% accurate. Exactly what you
100%.
see. It's
Just like
no,
Grey's Anatomy
it's
in the
yeah, it's
trailer, yeah.
ridiculous. People ask me that all the time. I'm like,
Backdraft.
no.
That was my good one.
Backdraft was a good one, but there was a TV series and I'm going to date you now because you brought it up, but called Emergency, right? Back in the 1960s, 70s.
70s, come on, I'm not that
okay,
old.
40s, they were writing, but it was LA Fire. And I remember as a kid watching that.
Oh, yeah.
And, they had the little Matchbox cars that were the emergency ones, and I always had those and was, driving them around. But that series was really popular, and both of those main individuals, and I forget their names, but they go to a lot of the fire and EMS conferences, and they are like the heroes of the conference. Everyone lines up to get their autograph and a picture. But yeah, it was probably more of that series than a movie.
Okay. What about for you, Brian? Is there who's the most? What's the cop movie you love?
Well, growing up, just from series, Adam 12 and Chips.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you all remember
Chips
those.
was the greatest, man.
Coolest stuff on the planet.
Pancho.
Yeah.
Greatest show on
But I go with two different cop movies. One's a little bit older, called L.A. Confidential.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw it.
Have seen it.
Spacey. It's about 50s and 60s in L.A.
Kim Basinger's in
Yep.
Yes,
yep,
that's a
right.
good
It's
one.
a great one.
Oh, yeah.
And then The Departed. Is a really good one as well.
What about Paul Blart?
That's
Where's he ranking?
And come on, you cannot forget the very first ones were the first police academies were some of the
they were
funniest
legendary.
monies of
The
all
best.
time.
They were good.
They went way overboard, but the first
Who cares? They were amazing.
No, I'm talking about when they got to the 10, the 15.
Oh, yeah.
But
We
when
didn't need 8 of them.
They're like, more than that. But yeah, the first few were hilarious.
Yeah.
Those are some of my, honestly, it's funny how the Beverly Hills Cop, how the police movies have evolved, but it's interesting. I appreciate you guys sharing that too. It's fun.
Final question for you both, and I'd love for you to just take a second and tee this up. We're paying a lot more attention to mental health, especially as it relates to first responders. As you guys have told us several times in this conversation, you show up on the worst day of people's lives. That has to have an impact on your men and women that face those challenges. And so, okay, I'll start with you, Brian. What is Chandler Police doing, or what are you aware of and trying to implement in regards to mental health for your people?
Well, let me just say, we want to adopt some common language in Chandler PD. One is that we care for and value people. We do that in a number of ways. 2 is we're committed to continuous improvement. 3, we embrace wellness and resiliency. And 4, we commit to using technology which makes our life easier, not complicates it.
Okay.
But with respect to caring and valuing people, this can mean different things to different people. It can be, giving them good career and promotional opportunities and having them grow. When it comes to resiliency and wellness, we want to take a broad brush because not everybody likes to run marathons, not everybody lift weights, and not everybody wants to go see a counselor. But we have some great opportunities in Chandler PD. We have cold plunges and saunas at our precincts. We have 24-hour telehealth for mental health. We have a peer support program. We have a broad base of really opportunities for them to do different things. Cops won't do yoga, but if you call it tactical breathing, they're all about it.
That's it,
So,
man.
I think they're missing the boat. If you guys,
I know,
I'm
you're
a
a
big
big yogi.
big
You're a big
yogi. I mean,
So
I was a hockey guy.
It's
went to
just
yoga.
one size does not fit all. And when you're talking about, having such a diverse workforce, not only generationally, but gender-wise and, ethnicity, you really don't know. So you have to have a complement to see where people are going to embrace it. But it's got to be a two-way street. Like I tell them, we can provide all the programs
Right.
in the world. And
You
this
gotta
is why
come to
we
the
love
table.
partnering with the 100 Club, because they are advocates in that realm, and that's a very mutually beneficial relationship. But it's got to be a two-way street, and we just want to provide the opportunity for them.
Okay, what do you say, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with everything Brian said. You do have to have diverse programs because you have a diverse workforce. I will say this is that, and we talked about it earlier, that your family, whatever your support structure is at home, is probably the most important thing. The problem is that we bring this job home with us,
Of course.
right? In our kids, in our wives, our husbands, our extended family, our friends. It's just hard to relate, and so it can be really difficult. And what I've seen over my career is that when the structure at home starts to fail, your professional life starts to fail. And so what we do is we are very proactive in monitoring that. We have a peer team of firefighters of all different ranks. We send them to schools to understand how to talk to people. We send them to different, mental health services, behavioral health services, all the services that you can think of, so that they can get our people in the door. And then what happens is sometimes, and let's just be honest, if you're a young firefighter or a young police officer and you're having a problem, you don't want to go to the chief's office, right? It's just the conversation's not there. And we probably don't have the relationship and the trust built up just because we don't have that connection, that touch point. So these peer groups, they go in and they meet with the firefighters or the police officers, and we really we support them. And so I may not even know what's going on with an individual because that's what they want, but I trust the group that we've trained, and they just say, Chief, we got this. And I say, great, let me know what you need. And so many problems can get solved that way. If they need something, they come to me, we give them the support. But so many times they work through the system, and it really is a great process. But we have a lot of programs. We are heavily invested in taking care of our firefighters. We're starting to move into taking care of our retirees. We're starting to move into taking care of the family.
It's a great group to
serve.
serve.
So this weekend, in fact, at our training center, we have about 15 groups, whether it's behavioral health, whether it's physical health, you name it, they're all there, and it's for all of our families to show up. So they've scheduled times, and they will go booth to booth to figure out what services could enhance their life. Maybe if they have some issues, what services they could invest in. But we really are trying to expand this to say, what can we do now for the kids? What can we do for the husband, for the wife? And then certainly the retirees. I think that's one group that, unfortunately, a lot of the benefits that we get don't extend to them. They retire from the job, whether you're police or fire, and I think you said everyone's got an expiration date. It's our identity, if you think about it.
Of course it is.
This is police and firefighters, it's your identity, and then one day it's gone. And then maybe you start to think about your career. And what we've seen is a lot of times, especially that first couple of years, is a really critical time that those people have support, that our incumbent firefighters are taking care of the ones that came before them. And so it's been really good. We all have work to do, and I think every chief.
But we're just on the ground floor. Let me give you guys some grace, right? Like, we're just on the ground floor with the mental health movement, and especially as it relates to military and first responders. Sure. So it's going to take a while for you to put these systems into place, because the first thing you have to do is start to strip the stereotype back, so your men and women feel comfortable enough to even come to the table. Because, like you said, Brian, you can have these programs all day long, but if people don't utilize them. Yeah. And they really.
I think with mental health too, the other thing that we're getting to recognize a lot more is just the trauma building on trauma, on trauma. So you do it for 15 years, and you run over a dog, and you break down in tears, and you're like, I've seen 100 dead bodies. Why does this dog bother me? And it's just
compound fractures.
That's right.
Yeah.
Peeling all that back and providing opportunities for people just to say it's okay.
Yeah. Well, we just applaud what you guys do every single day, and I know there's a whole narrative out there, and I think that too is probably going to calm itself down over the next few years, hopefully. And I believe in my heart, I don't know where you are, Steve, but I still think there's more people that are really huge supporters of first responders than people that want to talk smack.
Like 90 some odd percent. It's always we always know the small people are the loudest. But I really appreciate getting these gentlemen together and the message that they're sending the community.
Epic booking.
Yes,
Good
thank
job.
you. And but really, they're really. I mean, they're getting a lot of stuff done here, and so they covered a lot. And I'm proud, going that mental health. And I know Angela, who's on next.
We're gonna get to
talk to her and how she's associated with all this and her amazing charity as well. So
Brian,
thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, thank
Pleasure.
you. We're going to take a quick break from Sea and Smoke, and when we come back, you're going to learn everything you would possibly want to know about the 100 Club of Arizona. First up, we're going to hear from one of our sponsors of the Move the Needle podcast, and we'll see you in just a minute.
All right, guys, open house time. Let's get those signs out. Let's go, let's go. All right, guys, good job today. Let's f***ing go. Woo!
Well, we're back on Move the Needle, live from Sea and Smoke. Steve, what an incredible conversation. I can't thank you enough for booking Brian and Tom. That was awesome.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. So you're not going to thank me. You're actually going to thank the real person who orchestrated this thing, and the amazing Angela Harrolle. I reached out to her. this was kind of her brainchild. I mean,
Really?
so yeah, it's a collaboration, but I'm not going to take credit for it sitting here. I'm going to pass it on to her because, hey, these are very close people she works with, and she made it happen.
Very kind of you.
Well,
Thank you.
Angela, fist bump
Yes,
to you.
yeah,
See,
absolutely.
there you go,
Very
yeah.
much.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor to be here.
So you heard Tom, you heard Brian. What's your takeaways? You listened to that interview.
Geez, Chandler's my town. And I love the fire department here. They've responded, to my family emergencies. I love the chief, and he's fantastic. He brings so much from the city of Phoenix to Chandler, which is a beautiful gift. But, just capitalizing on some of those components, talking about, when you're calling 911, when you get them involved in your life and your emergencies, and then separate from that, that resiliency factor, the mental health piece, and the burdens that they carry every day. So there's so many components that we as an organization want to make sure that we can support and respond to on different levels.
Okay, let's make sure everybody understands what the 100 Club of Arizona is and what
Sure.
your role is with the organization.
Yeah, it's the honor of my life to be the president and CEO of the 100 Club. And the 100 Club of Arizona is a nonprofit organization, and we support all police officers and all firefighters throughout the entire state. So not just the city of Chandler, we do whether it's city, state, local, tribal, federal, municipal, you name it, we support them. And we do that in many different capacities. But usually it's often on the side of their worst day. So you think about a community member having their terrible day, but our first responders carry a significant burden. So we support them in the event of a line of duty death, also injuries. We support scholarships for their children, and we do an incredible amount in mental health, wellness, and training. But we also buy equipment for them that helps make them safer.
For example,
It could be ballistic vests. It could be self-contained breathing apparatus. It could be new turnout gear. Whatever that demand is, we want to make sure we can fill that gap, because sometimes, budget allowances are different, or they take time to approve. And sometimes you don't have time. You need new turnout gear in order to run into a fire. You don't want to be like, yeah, sorry, we don't have the gear for it. We're going to hang out in the truck. We only have 3 sets of turnout gear. We want to make sure that they don't have to wait.
so what I know about the 100 Club of Arizona is this little clip that you mentioned a second ago, which is on the worst day of their lives. That's typically where you come in. And
Yes.
what we're talking about, if we can just be blunt about it, is, an officer loses their life.
Yes.
And then the 100 Club, is my understanding, steps in immediately, not a week later, not 2 weeks later, but like immediately, and there's a response. What is that response typically?
Yeah, our job is to make sure that we can alleviate whatever burden that is. And primarily within 24 to 48 hours, or whenever it's appropriate, I will show up at that individual's home and provide them immediate assistance of $20,000. Now, that's really nothing in the grand scheme of things, because they don't want it. They need it, but they don't want it. What they want is they want their family member back. Right. And that's the part that's the hardest. But that's just the initial part. We bring them into our family, and we help support them for decades to come with whatever that need might be, whether it's help through our youth enrichment program for the dependents, whether it's financial assistance for tuition reimbursement, whatever it might be, our survivors retreat on an annual basis. So many components.
What happens at the survivors retreat?
Ooh, what happens at the survivors retreat stays at the survivors retreat. No, what it is an opportunity for, generally speaking, our widows, females that have lost a loved one in the line of duty. It's an opportunity for them to create connection. And that connection is crucial. And they have the opportunity for those that are more seasoned to mentor those that are newer in this pseudo role that they've just kind of stumbled in. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I want to go into, that's one of my most important questions I really want to ask you, how you turned your pain into purpose. I don't know if you know Angela's background, but she got into this, and I'm let her take over from here, but I want to, if you can share with the audience your background and how you've gained this passion, if you can do that.
Sure. So unfortunately, fortunately, I was involved in public safety. I was a special agent for almost a decade. And my husband was a police officer, paramedic, firefighter. Not three guys, just one guy. But working on the rescue helicopter here in the state of Arizona, rescuing 2 lost and dehydrated stranded hikers in the beautiful city of Sedona. And unfortunately, he was fatally wounded during one of those rescues. And my kids were very little at the time, and it was a real challenge for us. And I had no idea, and I'm sure he didn't either. We had no idea who the 100 Club was. We didn't, but they showed up at my door, and without question, they handed me a check for, at the time, it was $15,000. But it was the worst day of my life, and I didn't know how I was going to continue to move forward. We were a 2-income family, and we needed every little bit of it. So they showed up, and they handed me that check, and they never went away. And I guess that was the beauty of it. And I spent so much time from that day forward just vowing to try to pour my energy into paying it forward or paying it back however I could.
When did you step away as a special agent, or are you still doing that work on the part-time? Is that your side hustle?
No side hustle, no covert operation or anything like that. No, I actually stopped about that time and decided to lean into the community that leaned into us, that supported us so highly, and we appreciated it.
And I'm sure your family, your kids. I mean, go into that. How has that affected how you look at the landscape today, because you went through it, your kids, that experience? Share how that's helped you and maybe some stories.
Sure. It actually, my experience during that time was very unique as to what someone might have experienced now in 2024. I didn't have the resources that the 100 Club offers today. I didn't have that long-term commitment, that mentorship opportunity, that point of connection with other survivors. So that's really been a passion for mine to make sure that I can truly create bonds between these different women, primarily women, more so than men, but to have them understand that they're not in it alone and that they have someone that they can ask questions of that have been in a similar situation. Everyone's different. Every situation is different. But just to create that connection, but also to make sure that we are providing resources to those that maybe aren't line of duty, that those that are suffering due to a non-line of duty death, we support them as well. Wow. Support those that have had life-altering situations, because I also have the perspective of knowing that our surviving families have more access to resources over those that may have had a non-line of duty death situation. So I want to make sure that we can try to provide support in many different areas, but also in that mental health and wellness realm. It's everything.
It's the whole game.
It's the whole game.
I mean, I'm so passionate about it. I mean, it's the reason that I walked away from the career that I had, was because of my own mental health. It just was not healthy anymore, and I knew I needed to pivot and get into something more meaningful and purposeful and that type of stuff.
Maybe one of the hardest things you've ever done.
Probably.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't
Change
very
is hard.
Easy. Wasn't very easy, and it wasn't like my life sucked, right? Like if you looked at it on paper, it was like, that guy's got it all going on.
For sure.
And it just wasn't that case. Yeah. How old were your children when your husband died?
Nearly 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
Yeah, very little. So for them, their experience was very different. Both of them, one had more of a permanent memory, and the other, unfortunately, no.
Like very vague.
Yes.
I have a question on that. Have you developed any family traditions with your kids as a ritual, maybe to something to remember
honor him?
To honor.
What was his name? Can we use his name?
His name was Bruce. Bruce Harrolle.
What are the traditions to honor Bruce?
Anything.
Oh goodness. Well, on his birthday, I attempt to make a red mahogany cake, which is red velvet. Okay,
Ooh,
call it what you want. So we have cake, right? I attempt. I don't know how good it is, but the kids are like, "Can you just make the frosting?" I don't know what that says about the cake, but apparently the frosting's good.
The frosting's the bomb.
We do that, and then we do a hike. Actually, on the actual anniversary of his death, we do a hike from the base of the mountain up at Bear Mountain in Sedona, and we hike 2.25 miles straight up the edge of that mountain, right over the Enchantment Resort,
every
just
year?
to commemorate. Yes, every year, and it's daunting, and it's not just the physical piece, but it's the emotional weight of that day to carry. It's pretty tremendous.
Do you, I'm sorry, does it make you anxious leading up to the anniversary? Does it still produce a little bit of anxiety for you, or is that getting a little easier?
You know, with every year it evolves,
Sure.
it becomes different. And, you know, I want to honor him. And I do that every day in the role that I have versus trying to emphasize just one day a year. It's one day a year when everyone else is like, oh, yeah, this is what we do on this day. Whereas for me, it's every day.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question, but better that your answer was amazing, because I think that it's just a tremendous example for families to get together. You know, there's so many different situations, and you've spun it such in a positive way. Those traditions, I'm sure they've gotten amazing. I mean, it's a bonding experience for you and your children as well every single year, and I think that's important. People have gotten away from that stuff.
On that, man.
Yeah.
I lost my dad way too young, so I'm like
Sorry.
your kids, right? Like my dad, I was way too young when my dad died, and we
Hearing
did
that.
nothing. There were no traditions. There was nothing to honor him
Okay.
moving forward.
Wow.
And to hear you have this ritual every
Yeah, I
year
think it's
is
amazing.
so
I think it's
special
great.
and
I want
meaningful.
people to hear that. I mean, that's a great example. I mean, really.
And what
I
an
love
easy
that.
thing to do. What
Yeah.
a great thing to do.
Well, that's
because
what
you
you
get up there
think.
and you get close to him.
Yeah, not every year. I know that's a commitment.
That's what you think. I mean, 2.25 miles straight up the side of the
And-
mountain, or making the cake from scratch. I'm just
You're in great
telling you.
shape. You fly
Yeah,
up
yeah.
there.
Yeah, and they're going to Sedona. This is a commitment. This is something. This is a very intentful.
It's an all-day
I love this.
affair.
I mean,
but
I
then
love it.
there's the cake, right?
Yeah.
You can just buy a box cake. That's a lot easier. Go someplace and have a cake. But
No,
instead,
mom's cake.
we're going to do the 73-step process
Mom's
to make
velvet
the
cake.
Okay.
Ooh.
So yeah. Anyway,
love
so
that story.
But yes,
Love it.
traditions are important, and it's interesting that you asked that, because I think that we don't have enough traditions in my family, because our family is small but mighty.
Well, that's a great
Yeah.
example. I love it.
Yeah, you know, and man, we could sit here all day and talk about, you know, loss and grief and all of those things. And the reason that the 100 Club of Arizona exists is to step in those moments. And so let's put back let's get the focus back on the 100 Club of Arizona. December 1st. You guys have an event coming up. It's the week of Thanksgiving as people are listening to this podcast. In just a few days, on December 1st, they'll have an opportunity to do what?
Yes, it's kind of exciting. It's the first time we've partnered with Vitalent, and they're going to come in and we're going to do a big blood drive that recognizes and honors those that have lost their life in the line of duty just this past year. And we're doing that at Westworld in Scottsdale, and it's a Sunday, December 1st. And what a great time to take on such a massive event. You know, the idea is that we can come in during the season of giving, but also the highest demand season for those that are in need of blood. And I think about it on a couple different levels, because think about you calling 911. Think about our first responders responding to the calls in those emergencies. Is there any greater need? And so often they involve the giving of blood and resources. And we would love to have people come out and you can register. It's super easy. Go to our website and we can figure all that out for you. But what a great way to...
So make it easy for everybody. It's in
Yeah.
the show notes.
Yeah.
Get it and link it and go and be intentional with your day on December 1st, and not only give blood, but maybe take a second and have a little silent prayer for the people that aren't here anymore that we wished for.
Yes.
Because that's the other thing about the holidays.
Yeah,
It's a tough
and
time.
enjoy the day. We've talked about it again. This isn't our first. Vitalent is special to us as well. Next week I'm going as well. I've already have a scheduled date, and I make an afternoon out of it. I mean, that's what I would challenge people to do in the holiday season. Take
yourself out to lunch.
Take yourself out to lunch. Maybe go with somebody. Take the afternoon off. Make a day of it. A day of reflection. How about that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
What else is going on at the 100 Club right now where folks might have an opportunity to get involved? Because here's what I sort of imagine in these podcasts. People hear your story, they hear a little bit, they go, oh, I didn't know that. How do I get involved with them? How do I step in and help? It's not always about writing a check, although that's wonderful.
Correct.
What are some other meaningful ways to get involved with the 100 Club
Oh
of
my
Arizona?
goodness. Well, we always need volunteers on many
you?
different level. Always need volunteers.
What kind?
Oh, you name it, for different events that we have, obviously. So, for example, the blood drive, but we have many other events throughout the year that we always need support at, whether that's out at Country Thunder or whether that is our annual gala that we have coming up April 5th of next year, our annual golf tournament, you name it. And then just every day. Sometimes we need things as simple as help in the office to assemble some chairs because none of us ladies are that, handy, so to speak. But it could be anything. It can be write thank you notes to public safety. But other ways that people can get involved, it's near the end of the year. It is just, we're on the heels of the season of giving and then moving into the holidays where we really want to honor and love on those that are closest to us. But we are a tax credit qualified charity, which is massive. You're going to get a dollar for dollar credit back on your taxes, which is beautiful. Or you can just put the license plate on your vehicle, and you can have that plate out.
Right.
Yes,
I do see that on the road.
We have one of the coolest. I'm biased, I know, but one of the coolest license plates out there, and it's the distressed black and white flag with the red line and the blue line through the middle. So that way, both chiefs are happy, right? So it's got the red line for fire and the blue line for PD.
They're both in there.
But it says supporting public safety. And people can put that on their vehicle, and it costs $25. It's a vanity plate. And the reality is of that $25, $17 goes back to support these programs that we've been talking about this entire time. Wow. And as a community member, think about when you call 911. Think about that. Because when you call 911, you are, someone's going to take your call at the dispatch center, and they're going to say, where are you and how can we help? And the beauty of that is they're going to get there as fast as they can. They don't care if you're red, blue, purple, brown, green. It makes no difference. They're going to show up at your door, and they're going to try to provide you the best possible service. And you invited them there, and you trust them. And they are now part of your story, and they're going to execute on whatever is happening in your world, whether you're in a vehicle and an accident or whether you're in a home and someone you love has had a heart attack. They're going to give you the best possible service. And you trust them. But just remember, when they leave, they're going to leave with part of your story. And they're going to carry the weight of that. Whether it's good, bad, sad, indifferent, they're going to carry that weight, and they're going to leave with that nugget. And we need to be there as an organization, as a community, to support them. Because the reality is how much can they take with them? How many little nuggets can they toss into this backpack, before it pulls them over? Mm-hmm. Chief Chapman just said, it's like, hey, you see all of these, sadly, maybe dismembered or deceased individuals throughout your career, maybe 15, you could see just dozens, unfortunately. And then unfortunately, you might hit an animal, or you might see one little thing that literally is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Because that's mental health. You're good till you're not.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's really it.
Yeah, and you can never test for mental fortitude. We can ask, firefighters and officers to do this many sit-ups, or how many push-ups can you do, or how much hose can you pull, whatever the case is. But you can never test for mental fortitude, because at different points in your life, things affect you differently.
Yeah. And speaking of mental, I have one question. I want to finish up with Angela. I don't know where we are on this. If we've got, I could ask more.
Go for it, man.
Okay, but I want to share about, again, back to that, the because you've been through a lot, and you're sharing that you consistently still go through a lot. Mm-hmm. Moments of joy that you share with your kids that you have to sometimes pull. Can you share some of these stories? I have maybe a funny moment that you bring into your life that lightens it up. Tell us a little bit about you, Angela.
Oh, geez. This is a lot. A funny moment.
Let's see, that you could bring it with your kids. What do you, to lighten the moment? You're dealing, I guess my question stems from somebody like yourself. Again, like you put on, here you are, but you're dealing with some heavy duty stuff daily. You come home, you're with your kids. Tell us, how do you lighten the time?
Next question is, what's your escape?
Yes. Thank you.
All of
Matthew's trying to teach me that. Shorten it up, buddy. What's your escape?
I'm a foodie. I come
There
here
we
to
go.
see and
That's what I'm looking
smoke.
for.
I go to chop.
There we go.
There's nothing better than breaking bread, I think, with family.
Yeah.
It's never too late to create traditions.
Yes.
And
So you're coming home, and you guys, you and your kids, you're having a good meal. You're having a good meal.
Yeah,
Is
we
that what
probably
you're saying?
went out, just so you know. But
You went out for a good
let's
meal.
be candid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking. Again, I'm intrigued. with these people we have on our show, I'm intrigued
How do you decompress?
Yes, how they decompress. They're dealing with stuff that, again, the average person watches on TV is the highlight, and they're doing it day in and day out. So I appreciate that sneak peek because, the humanness. I want people to see the humanness of the people on our show. These givers, the people who move the needle, people I call people of impact in the community in so many different ways. So I appreciate that. These are, again, we're trying to get here and move the needle. We're talking about mental health. We're bringing on different people. We want to look at this, I believe, for our audience in the community from a different angle, not from the elevator pitch that somebody can just get if they want to look it up. There's people behind all these efforts, and who are they, and what makes them tick? Because there's people watching this that want to get involved. They don't know how, and sometimes they do know how. They need somebody to look up to. They need to point at somebody and say.
The thing that people need the most, Steve, is the invitation.
Yeah.
Most people just need to be
That's what I'm
asked
talking
to
about.
the party.
That's true.
Ask the party.
It's such a big thing we forget about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, look in that camera right there. And let people know what they can do to help support the 100 Club of Arizona. If they're hearing this today and they're like, I want to go do something right now, what's
What do
a
they
good
do?
action step?
Well, go to 100club.org.
Okay.
And obviously you can provide financial support at any time. You can make a monthly commitment. You can make an annual commitment. But just go out and say thank you to an officer or a firefighter that is serving our community. That's what I want. That's what I want from them. Obviously, we want to be able to back them. We want to be their backup. We are their backup, and I ask the community to be their backup as well.
Fantastic. Angela, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah.
Honored to be here.
It is so great to see depth in people. Because, and to your point, that's
Yes.
what we miss so many times, right? We see CEO of company and we think, okay, here's Angela.
Yeah.
She looks like she's got it all together.
Yeah.
Her life is perfect.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
running
dear.
this great organization. She's got 2 beautiful children. Life is good, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know that there's a whole story behind that.
It's called behind the curtain.
Yes,
I mean,
and
it's-
everyone has a story.
We all
Steve,
do.
you have a story.
I
Matthew,
do
you have
too.
a story.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
all do.
everyone has a story. Our listeners have a story.
And so again, like I guess I appreciate what we're creating. I mean, all
Are
of
you
us.
patting ourselves on the back?
You
right now?
should.
word.
You guys are
It's
doing
word.
great things.
It's a word
Yeah.
thing.
Steve is
Yeah.
giving a shout out to us.
When we're part of the community, we are. If we're part of
We
it,
should celebrate ourselves.
we should.
more.
You should.
Because here's the thing: is again, we got another candid scoop here again that people can go and watch, and instead of again seeing an elevator pitch, they see the people behind it and the real answers.
Well, listen, thank you very much,
Yes.
Angela, for being here.
course.
Thank you to the crew at Sea and Smoke
Yes,
for hosting
thank
us
you.
today.
Amazing
to
place.
Bryan Chapman, the Chief of Police, and Tom Dwiggins, the Fire Chief, both of Chandler, and then, of course, to our sponsors, Brooklyn V's, Bell Lissette. Another great episode. Thank you, too, Steve.
I appreciate you, man.
Have
Thank
a
you.
happy Thanksgiving, brother.
You too, as well. Enjoy.
Angela, you have a great Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
See everybody next time on
Thank
Move
you.
the Needle.